Hey guys, this is Abhishek from gadgetsnews.com, and today we are going to talk about the thin phones which are there in the market, or some of the thinnest phone, whether you should buy them, or if you want to buy them, why you should buy them, what are the reasons, what are the advantages which work in the favor of a thin phone, and what are the disadvantages as well which might come across to you when you buy any of those thin phones which are there in the market. So we have three main competitors with us as of now, which is the Gionee S5.1. It is approximately 5.1 millimeter in terms of thickest out of all these two. We have the Oppo R5, which is 4.85 millimeter in terms of thickness, very thin phone. And then we have the Vivo X5 Max, which is the thinnest out of all, and this one is 4.75 millimeter in terms of thickness. So this is thinner, this is slightly thicker, I would say. Very minimal differences there in between the thickness of the Oppo R5 and the Vivo X5 Max. They come very close to each other, but there are differences which work in favor of X5 Max, and there are good things as well on the Oppo R5. And then we have the Gionee S5.1, which is the thicker out of all these three phones. Again, these three phones are going to be the thinnest phone which you can go ahead and buy from the market, and we are going to tell you what are the advantages of buying these thin phones, any of these thin phones, and what are the disadvantages which actually come across. So I would like to talk about the good reasons. First of all, the good reasons for which you may like to buy any of these three phones is going to be the thinnest form factor. So again, the first thing which might be associated with the thin phone is going to be the style. So people buy these thin phones because they are very slim, they are very portable, they are very light in terms of the weight. So they are so light that you can barely feel them. Again, in terms of weight, the Gionee S5.1 is the lightest out of all these three, and this is a very light phone. And again, even when it is such light phone, it comes with a great build quality, and same goes for these two phones as well. So thinness does not mean that the brands are actually compromising on the build quality. All these three brands have these three OEMs from which these phones are coming, they have paid a good attention to the build quality, and they have made sure that these devices are very good in terms of the build quality. Now the other thing which is going to be is the lightweight. So definitely when these devices become so slim, they become so compact that they are lightest in terms of the weight. This is approximately 97 gram, which is lightest, and even lighter than an iPhone 5, I would say. So the Gionee S5.1 is definitely lightest, and it is even lighter than an iPhone 5. When we talk about the Oppo R5, it is approximately 155 gram, which is again pretty good. It is also very light. And when we even talk about the Vivo X5 Max, which is even bigger in terms of the display size as compared to these two, this is also very light at 146 gram. So these devices become very light. The first reason for which you may like to buy them is going to be the style. The second reason is going to be the overall weight. So weight of these devices is so less that you can't actually feel it. It is very good, and you don't feel like carrying a bulky phone in your hand. So these are the two things which work in favor. Then if we talk about the overall compromises which actually are there when you buy a thin phone like these, some of the compromises which you might see depending on from which brand you are buying it, you might see a compromise on the camera. For example, we have an 8 megapixel camera module on the Gionee S5.1, which is again a compromise because overall dimensions of this phone does not allow Gionee to actually fit a 13 megapixel camera module inside, which is the case. But the same does not go for these two phones, which is the Oppo R5 and the Vivo X5 Max, which is again going to be costly as compared to this one, but they have a 13 megapixel camera module, but it comes with a cost because the camera modules is something which cannot be decreased in terms of the width, I would say, or in terms of the height. So they are the camera module on these two devices again is kind of emerging out. So it is going to emerge out from the surface at the back side, which you will be able to basically see, and that camera bulge is going to be there. So you will see a camera bulge over there, which is not happening over here because they have compromised the camera module and they have made it 8 megapixel, which can actually fit into this particular dimension, whereas these two devices have 13 megapixel camera module, which again makes sure that the camera will have a bulge, and this is again not a very good design because when you place it on a flat surface, because of the camera module emerging out of the surface, it will be kind of not very stable. So that is one compromise which brands actually make. Another compromise is going to be on the battery. So whenever you buy a thin phone, the biggest compromise is going to be on the battery side, because these phones again, because of dimensions, cannot accommodate too much of battery inside, so they have to actually take this into consideration, that they can actually fit in the battery maximum possible. So these phones will approximately have 2000 milliampere hour battery or even 2300 milliampere hour battery, but not more than that. So again, when we talk about the batteries of these three devices, none of the battery is actually higher than 2300 milliampere hour, which is the case. So that is why the compromise is there on the battery side. So if you have a lesser battery on a thinnest form factor, it will actually will not be able to actually give you around 1 day of battery backup. So this is also another compromise. Then one more compromise which you might see is going to be the overall heating part, especially if you plan to play high definition games, or if you actually do graphic intensive things on a thinnest phone like this, on a thinnest phone like this, or on a thinnest phone like this, like Vivo Max, then you will see a lot of heating which will happen, and you will be able to experience that heating because the back on the Gionee S5.1 is again glass, which is again going to give you a lot of heat which you can easily experience. But again, they have done a lot of things to actually optimize the phone in terms of performance, and the heating is not that much which I have experienced on this phone. And I would say same goes with these two, but especially if you do heavy processing on any of these three phones, you can experience a lot of heating, and that is something which might make it uncomfortable for you to actually hold the phone, because the phone is so thin, the components are actually very much in contact with the back surface, which is again metal over here, which is metal over here, and it is glass over here. And again, all these surfaces will give you a good amount of heat experience when you actually use these devices for heavy in processing. For example, if you're recording a high definition video, then you will also experience heating on all of these three phones. Again, heating can be controlled by the OEMs, and this is something which they actually do, but you will experience a lot of heating if you do heavy intensive tasks. So these are the compromises and the advantages of buying a thin phone or buying a normal phone. I would say a normal phone may be kind of bulky as compared to these, may not be as stylish as these phones are, but you will have the stability properly. I'm not saying that these phones are actually not stable, but especially in terms of heavy usage, the thick phones which are kind of thicker and they have a lot of space to actually accommodate the components, they do not compromise on the battery part majorly, and again they can actually give you a slightly better performance, especially on heavy end usage. So this is something which will happen for a normal consumer. This will not be a problem, especially the heating part of it, but these are the things which I wanted to point out. So again, I'm going to repeat things. First thing which work in favor of thin phones in case you are planning to buy a thin phone. First is the stylish form factor, so you will get a stylish phone which is going to look very premium. So the premiumness of the thin phone is definitely something which is very appealing for the consumers, and this is one of the most important reason for which you may like to buy a thin phone. Second is going to be the overall form factor and the lightweight. So it is going to be the lightest phone, it is going to be a most portable phone, it is going to slide inside your pocket very easily without any issues as compared to a thick bulky phone. And disadvantages are going to be on the battery side, on the design side sometimes, like the camera bulge, and you will also have some problems with the performance, especially with the high-end performance of the devices, high-end usage of these devices. So these are all the things which I wanted to point out. We are coming up with a video which will compare all these three thin phones on the basis of camera, build quality, form factor, and the overall day-to-day usage, the UI performance, and the overall value for money which you will get on all these three phones. So stay tuned for that video. As of now, this video which was regarding whether you should buy thin phones, what are the good things for which you may like to consider them, and what are the bad things for which you may like to reject the thin phones. This is something which we have completed in this video. So do let us know if you have any specific question for this device, for these devices, or for this video. You can leave your questions in the comment section below. In case anything which we have not addressed regarding the thin phones, you can like this video if this video helped you by clicking the like button below. You can also subscribe to our YouTube video channel by clicking the subscribe button below this video. Thanks for watching this video. This is Abhishek signing off. Thank you.